Good morning. For Traders Exclusive, this is George Kachuk with RCM Wealth Advisors, reporting to you from the CME Group trading floor in Chicago. Let's continue talking about the equity markets. Talked about over the last few weeks about looking for relative strength in stocks, and then last week we talked about how the bottom's probably in for the equity markets, and they're kind of moving sideways, and some stocks are moving upwards. So most importantly is we have the small cap stocks, the Russell 2000, S&P 600 small cap stocks hitting new highs. Mid cap stocks are right there also. Micro caps are also at new highs. Now the S&P and NASDAQ still has a little bit of work. Be great to see the NASDAQ get up above 7,500 and the S&P about 2,800. Now I want to talk about a few individual stocks, the things we're looking at and why it's really important for the whole rest of the market. Specifically, I'm talking about a lot of stocks that have gapped up, big gap ups on earnings, and they've held those gaps. Now often when we see a gap on a stock chart, it could be a liquidity trap, meaning institutions sell into that, other people pile in, and then stock fails. We're seeing just the opposite of that over these last few weeks in the earnings season, especially in some of the smaller stocks. And I'll go over a few names, and none of these are buy recommendations. You should always consult your financial advisor. But there are just a few stocks that had big gap ups, and it's not the gap that first day, but subsequent days it holds that closing level and continues higher. So we saw it in stock like Innova, that symbol is ENVA, or Solar Edge, symbol SCDG, gapped up, held that gap, moved higher in the next few days. Last week we saw Shake Shack, symbol SHAK, gapped up, moved a little sideways, moving higher. The Trade Desk, symbol TTD, had a great big gap up, next day hesitated at that closing price, and over the next few days moved much higher. We saw that in stock like New Relic, the symbol is NEWR, another software name. Pretty much gapped up, moved sideways for about 5-6 days, and then it's moving higher out of that space. We saw that in Twilio, symbol TWLO, or Axon Enterprises, the old Taser company, and symbol is AAXN. Gapped up, held that level, came in a little bit of secondary, but immediately held that closing gap price and continued to move higher. Then last Thursday we saw in World Wrestling Entertainment, that symbol is WWE, big gap up on earnings, immediately holds the closing price the next day, moves higher, and it's moving higher today. Chinese stock Baozun, BZUN, same thing Thursday, gapped up, Friday followed through, held that price. Today it's a little soft, but it's right at that closing price at about 53.50 and that gap price. So again, that's showing that the market is strength, institutions are defending that big gap up price. We saw it even in Valiant, a fallen hero, gap up on these last earnings, that symbol's VRX, and pretty much held that closing price and moved higher over the next few days. So now this week also we have a few notable stocks we're looking at. Stocks like today, Pure Storage, that symbol is PSTG. It's reporting after the close, so we'll see how that happens. Now it's not so important the gap up, it's the subsequent. Can it hold that gap the following days? And then on Thursday we'll be looking at Nutanix, that symbol is NTNX, and Splunk, SPLK. We'll see if in that space, these smaller stocks, if the pattern continues where we see large gap ups and it holds and the market moves higher. So these are just a few suggestions, ideas, things to take a look at. Definitely not trade recommendations. Always consult your financial advisor, and more importantly, let volume and price be your guide. This is George Kachuk with RCM Wealth Advisors, reporting to you from the CME Group trading floor in Chicago. Have a great trading week.